This presentation will teach you about how population pyramids show us characteristics in a population. We use population pyramids to analyze growth or decline of fertility, mortality, and migration in cities, countries, or regions of the world. It's a bar graph that shows the age and sex structure of a population. First, we have to understand the parts of a population pyramid. Each bar represents one 5-year age group, the youngest at the bottom. The numbers across the bottom show what percentage of the population is in each bar. Boys are usually shown in blue on the left and girls on the right in red or pink. We can also divide it vertically. This one is based on economy, where the 0 to 20 age group is young kids that are living at home usually and being supported by their parents. Then we have the economically active age group, 20 to 65. These are the people that are going to work and earning money and supporting their families. And then we have the 65 and up that are generally retired and living on some sort of retirement income. We can also divide it vertically based on who's having kids. And so we have the 0 to 40 pre-reproductive. That's 0 to 14. The 15 to 44 reproductive, those are the ones that are generally having children. And then 45 and up, post-reproductive. As we analyze the population pyramids, I want you to think of them as 3 basic shapes: the Christmas tree, the box, or the cup. The Christmas tree is a developing nation. They usually have a high birth rate, a short life expectancy, and rapid population growth. This is a pyramid from Namibia, and you see it really has a pretty triangular shape there, so we're going to say that's a Christmas tree shape. The box is a more developed nation with slower growth. They usually have low infant mortality. That means fewer babies are dying. They have long life expectancy, so the age groups go up higher, and it's a slower population growth. The cup is also a developed nation, but probably even more towards the developed side, and it has negative growth. They have a low birth rate, a longer life expectancy, and actually a shrinking population. So this one of Italy shows the reduction of population down on those lower ages. Notice the top part is always a bit of a triangular shape, or a little Christmas tree at the top. So as we analyze them, I want you to focus on really mostly the bottom 3/4 or 2/3, so that we can, they'll always be a little pointy at the top. Population pyramids can show change over time. I have a few pyramids from China at different times. This was from 1970, and I want to point out a few things here. Overall, I'd say it's a Christmas tree shape, but it shows some important things. There was some rapid growth here in the 15 to 19, so it would have been in the 1950s, where they were encouraged to have large families, so you can see a big increase right there. And then unfortunately, they had the government take over farming, and then they had droughts, and the government farms weren't as efficient as they thought, and they had a lot of people die of starvation in 1961. It's called the Great Chinese Famine. 18 to 45 million people died, and you can see that here where it narrows in on the population pyramid. Moving ahead to the year 2000, the great leap forward, that rapid growth still shows. Now it's in the 45 to 49 year age groups. The Great Chinese Famine still shows that reduction there. And then the Chinese leaders got worried about how much population growth they had, and they enacted a one-child policy in 1979. So here we had this rapid growth, and then it started to decline. 1979 would have been 20 years or so before this one, and you see in the 20 to 24 age group a real sudden decline in the number of people. We do go out again here in the 10 to 14, but that's not because the policy changed. It's just that we have more people in this age group. So if we have more parents, we're going to have more kids, even though they're only having one child per family. Okay, then that's explained there. If we move ahead again to the 2019, all those other facets move up. And I would say it's a cup shape down at the bottom now. We still have we can see the Great Leap Forward. We can see the famine. The Great Leap Forward, some of these people are old enough that they've passed away now. So it's not actually a reduction in the year of the famine. Here we see the one-child policy and that little bubble reflection after it. And then they got to be a little bit worried that they had declined, they had reduced the population too much, and so they relaxed the one-child policy to a two-child policy to try to stabilize rather than shrink the population. Population pyramids can also show migration. This is an interesting one from Oman, where you can see some pretty severe distortion. Over here on the left, you can see overall, I'd say it's a Christmas tree shape, but the men are sticking out hugely on the left and the women a little bit on the right. So that distortion in males and the economically active ages from 20 to 65 is because people are moving from nearby countries to work in the oil fields in Oman. So immigration is what's reflected here. There's a smaller distortion in females. Those men that are coming, some of them are bringing their wives with them. We've got some pretty rapid growth here in the children. Those families that are migrating there are having their kids there, but then once they get to retirement age, they're going to move away, and you can see that at the top, we don't have that width there. Once they get past that economically active age, they've moved back to their countries, and the population is back to just the Omani natives. Okay, the population pyramid of the United States has some interesting things that show the effects of World War II. I would say this top part here is very much a Christmas tree shape, but you notice on this right hand side we've got where the women are going past that triangle that I've put on there. There were more women than men in those ages because over 400,000 U.S. soldiers were killed during World War II. And in 1980, those soldiers would have been in these age groups. 1980 would have been, 35 years past the war. So 55 or so, these age groups are the ones who would have been soldiers during the war. This little waistline here where it goes narrow shows that fewer babies were born during World War II. The soldiers were off at war, and so they weren't there to get married and have kids. When they came home from the war, though, they made up for it with what we call the baby boom. When they did come home and get married, they suddenly started having families, and it really blossomed out quickly with some rapid population growth. After those soldiers got done having kids 20 years or so later, it's the end of the baby boom. That was the largest population growth, and then there was a bit of a demographic transition where people moved more to cities. It's not economically advantageous to have big families when you're living in a city instead of on a farm, so it was pretty typical to reduce the number of children per family. If we move ahead to the year 2000, you can still see that there are more women than men up in those older ages reflecting the war. And then you can still see the slight reduction in childbirth during the war, and you can see the widening from the baby boom and the end of the baby boom. The bottom part of the pyramid here is really quite stable. You can see, I would say that bottom part is very much a box shape. And then if we move to 2020, you can still see a little bit of the war effects at the top. Not as extreme. The baby boom is still visible, but not as dramatic. And the basic box shape shows a more stable population and slow growth. We do have a little bit wider bubble in about the 25 to 29 age group, and that's just a reflection of when the baby boomers started having babies. So we had the largest population growth there with the baby boom, and then when they had kids it was a larger number again. Now at the lower end, we've got the post-baby boomers. We have fewer parents, so that's fewer babies, and the growth is slowing. So you are going to be assigned to create a slide that analyzes the population pyramid for the country in Europe that you chose. So there's a template there's a link to it in Canvas, but it'll actually be in Google Classroom, that you'll open up the template, open up the link to the populationpyramid.net website, find the pyramid for your country, and then fill out the population page. I've got one here as an example. I'll show you. So this is for Bangladesh. That's not a country in Europe, it's in South Asia, but that's the example I'm using. So Bangladesh's population pyramid is shaped like a Christmas tree, changing to a box at the younger ages. This suggests that the population growth rate is slowing down. This is due to becoming a more developed country, which leads families having fewer children because they are more likely to survive. And then I just Googled the information on total fertility rate, 2.06. 2.1 is replacement rate, so they are just below the replacement rate on that, which is really a pretty stable thing to do. The population growth rate there is in Bangladesh is 1.2%, and the population density is 1,155.5. That's actually pretty crowded. The United States population density is 33 people per square kilometer, so this is like, what would it be, 30 times as crowded as the United States. So you will have a template that looks like this. These links are live, so you can click on those and it'll take you right to the website. So here you'll just find your country. Let's say you want to do France. So you just click there, find the France one, and then you'll do a snip across there and place it on your slide. If we go back to that, I just want to go back to our presentation. The population growth rate, this links to that activity. France is right here, so you can just click on that. It'll have the little pull out, so you can take a picture of that area to put on your slide. And then the other one is population density. So you'll just find your country and click on it. It'll show it there, and then you take a snip and put it on your slide. I've got a sentence frame. You'll just put the country name. So if you were doing France, France's population pyramid is shaped like a, and I would say theirs was France. Let's see. If you look at this, yeah, remember the top part's always going to be a little bit Christmas tree-like. I would say the rest of this is really pretty much a box shape. There might be a little bit of a cup feeling at the bottom, but it's not very extreme. I'd say it's mostly a box shape, which is a pretty stable population growth rate. This suggests that it's a more developed country, has a lower infant mortality rate, and a lower death rate overall. This is due to being a more developed country and smaller families. So you'll just fill out that information and then submit that to me in Google Classroom for your points. Thanks. Bye.